Okay, we'll move on to the next piece, which is the cause. Here we'll be looking at the psychology of influence, and I'm drawing a lot of research done by Dr. Robert Cialdini in the area of influence, and he mentions 6 areas that are critical to influence. Now that you build the rapport, now you're moving into, okay, I've built the rapport, I've built the relationship, I've built the trust. I need to move into influencing, creating influence in the environment and with the other person. So Robert Cialdini, in his book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, he mentions 6 key strategies. So what we'll do is we'll look at each of these slightly deeply. So the first one is reciprocity. People tend to give back to others what has been given to them. So while people think of reciprocity in terms of exchanging money or goods or services, it really involves a lot more. For example, when participating in a conversation or a negotiation, by providing the other person with attention, even information, concessions, even respect, you'll likely receive the same from them in return. In order to maximize this principle of reciprocity in a negotiation, you should be the first one to give. So there are certain principles that work here. So you should be the first one to give, also personalize that giving, and it should be unexpected. It has been found that if it is personalized and if it is unexpected, the reciprocity or the sense of reciprocity you build to that person in a negotiation increases a lot. And you see that in a lot of times, you see that happening. For example, let's say a Uber or a Ola gives you, some money in your e-wallet, like it could be as low as 20 rupees or 50 rupees. And the very fact that you own something that belongs to them, they've given you something, creates that sense of reciprocity. And it is used a lot by, you go to a vendor, they would give you a diary or a pen. And but it's been found that if you make it more personalized and make it more unexpected, it becomes more powerful. I had a recent experience while working with a firm. I was at a vendor's place, and they kept all these diaries on the table, in the meeting hall. And I went and sat there. Yeah, it felt good to have a diary, but I could see that everybody else does as well. But when we finished the meeting, and it was a good meeting. When we finished that, when we are walking away, the CEO of the vendor comes over to me and hands me a small, ballpoint pen in a small case, saying, here's something special for you. We enjoyed working with you, having a meeting with you and conversing with you. So here's something that, would help you, remind you of us, or this, the good meeting, productive meeting we had. So that made me feel all the more special because it was personalized, it was unexpected. And these seem to go a long way in creating a positive influence. So moving on to the next one is scarcity. So it's been found that people want what they can't have, and I think this is an evolutionary sense that has been that has evolved over thousands of years. If there is scarcity, that means that resource is valuable. So that's built into us at an unconscious level. And that's why advertisements that promise limited time only. There is a sale, but that's going to last only few hours. For example, if you go to Amazon, they say a lightning deal, and it's going to end in 3 hours. And there is another part of it, we'll touch upon that later. It says 20% of the people have already claimed this deal, and that's another influence strategy. We'll talk about that. So this becomes very effective. It's important to describe the uniqueness and unattainable advantages otherwise of any recommendation or offer you make. So when you put something on the table, make that limited. I've seen vendors do this in the quotations. On the top, they'll put the quotation, validity of the quotation expires in 30 days. But a lot of them don't follow up on that or don't even emphasize that in a conversation. So I feel that's something, a very powerful strategy or to be utilized in a potential negotiation. Research says that in situations marked with uncertainty, people are more apt to take action when they know what they stand to lose. So loss aversion is an unconscious bias that Daniel Kahneman talks about. So loss aversion prompts us to action much more than benefits. So in a typical sales cycle, people talk a lot. A salesman talks a lot about benefits, but when you talk about what they're going to lose if they don't take the decision, if they don't buy the product, if they don't engage with you, it's being seen to have much more positive impact in moving them towards a decision. Authority. Research shows that people typically follow the lead of those they perceive as credible or knowledgeable or expert in a particular area. And it makes sense, right? Especially since authorities or legitimate, credible authorities have attained those positions by the virtue of a lot of knowledge, skill, expertise in the field. But unfortunately, many experts mistakenly assume that others will naturally know this or recognize this, their expertise, but that doesn't happen. It's been found that if somebody comes and tells about your expertise, that's much more effective, and it's been seen to create that aura of credibility a lot more, even much more compared to you yourself giving your introduction and saying that, hey, I've got all these credentials and I'm an expert in this area. For example, I saw two situations, and I was involved in sales cycles where a sales guy brought in an expert and told the expert in front of the customer, hey, introduce yourself. And the person stands up and says, I've worked in the metals industry for the last 20 years. I'm an expert. I know this area, et cetera, right? And there was another situation where the salesperson himself introduced this expert by giving the same credentials. It was a different person, not the same person. And I could see the engagement that the customer had was very different in the second case. They, in fact, engaged with this person, started asking questions about his credibility, his expertise, and even what he did in those projects and how it could be useful and utilizable in their current project. So something to keep in mind when you are projecting credibility in front of, let's say, a customer or another party in negotiation. Consistency. People feel compelled to be consistent in their prior behaviors, opinions, actions, and statement. So this is not consistency of you, but also creating consistency with the other person. So when someone makes a commitment actively and they say that I'm going to do this, it's even more likely they'll follow through with that commitment. I mean, this is the perfect example of a whole industry that is working on this is this industry of personal trainers. I mean, a lot of us know what exercises are available or what workouts are available, and it's easily you can Google it or see it on YouTube. But the authenticity, or rather the consistency of it, increases a lot more when you have a personal trainer and they're going to have you commit to that. And so there's another person involved and you're making that commitment, and even sometimes publicly, and that increases the opportunities that you have to live up to those commitments. So when negotiating, you can activate this consistency principle by recognizing a prior commitment and linking it to your current request. So you could get a prior commitment and link it to the current request that you're making. And the commitment could be to certain values. It could be to, oh, we won't negotiate, we won't do price negotiations very hard, or something like, we're not hard on our vendors, or we have agreed to, extend this relationship into other areas and things like that. Right? So they've made a commitment, and now you can leverage that commitment by invoking the consistency principle. If possible, even you could take that a step further by having those commitments in writing, because people tend to live up to what they write. The more the public commitment is, the stronger pull to related requests. So this is something that works very powerfully in negotiations when you have commitments made during negotiations and that need to be lived up to much later in a sales cycle, or even for example, in a product implementation or during the execution of that sales cycle. Liking. People are much more easily influenced by those they like. Uh, but what makes someone like you? I think that's a question that comes up. And like neuroscience and research in psychology tells us there are three important factors that contribute people to like us. One is similarity. We like people who are similar to us. We also like people who tell us that they like us, right? And also we like people who cooperate with us towards mutual goals, common goals. So three things: who are similar to us, who tell us they like us, and who work with us on mutual goals. Therefore, when negotiating, take the time necessary to locate a genuine shared interests and points of agreement before going into an area, an idea, or a proposal or a recommendation. So, the rapport building time, the time to really find out what their values are and what those overlaps are, is extremely important. So, in other words, get to know the people more meaningfully before talking business. Right? And the final one is what we talked about during that Amazon example, consensus, or it's also called social proof. So in that lightning deal, Amazon gives one statistic is, they create scarcity by saying you're going to lose this deal in 3 hours if you don't act now. The other one is the social proof, which is the saying 20% have already claimed this. So it puts an unconscious pressure on us that there are people who already claimed it. That means this is a good deal, and I need to do that as well. That's because people often heavily rely on others for clues on how to think, feel, and act. And that again comes from our evolutionary biology of wanting to be like other people, because the other people, the group has survived. And that means if I be like the group, if I follow the group, I will survive as well. Hence, the proof of what is correct isn't grounded a lot in facts and statistics, though a lot of us would want to believe that, but in our social environment. So, this tendency to look to and follow the lead of similar other people is strongest in situations when there is uncertainty, when there is scarcity. To use social proof in a negotiation, rather than trying to demonstrate it yourself, it's important to first present testimonials from other people. So, a lot of times you see how salespeople come and present testimonials. So that's talking to that social proof. So it's important to collect genuine testimonials and use them extensively in communicating to the other person. The more similar the testimonial provider is to, say, the person you're talking to, the stronger your case will be perceived. Again, it's important to bring that forward and upfront rather than wait for the other person to ask about it. So those are the 6 persuasion or influence strategies Cialdini talks about.